navigating uncertainty with agility and strategic leadership. For the same, I would like to introduce our moderator, Mr. Sachin Chitlange, Vice President of Business Analytics and Finance Transformation at Capgemini. Let's have a huge round of applause for Mr. Sachin Chitlange. And I would request the following panelists to kindly join us on the stage. Mr. Om Prakash, CFO at RAK Ceramics. Mr. Srinivasan N, CFO at Hyva. Mr. Sitanshu Satapathy, CFO at NITCO Limited. Mr. Kishore Vora, CFO at De Beers India Private Limited. Mr. Jaykumar Shah, CFO at Mr. Jaykumar Shah, CFO, HDB Financial Services Limited, and Ms. Upma Goel, CFO at Piramal Enterprises Limited. It's about the crucial role of CFOs in managing business crises and turnarounds, navigating uncertainty with agility and strategic leadership. I would request a moderator to begin with the panel discussion.
Maybe to start with, question for audience, what do we mean by uncertainties or crisis management? Any thoughts? Let's make it interactive so that we not only hear from panel but also share with each other. Any examples of uncertainties? I'm sure there are a lot. Okay, the lunch is still heavy or? So I think COVID is one of the best example of uncertainties which we had in the recent times. Things like inflation, rising interest rates, we face these kind of uncertainties as CFOs. Crisis management may be ups and downs in the business. Like I know software industry today is going through a lot of crisis in terms of because of the US markets. And same can happen with elections just concluded and we saw how markets going up and down for some industries, defense, capital goods and so on. So I think definitely CFOs play a large role in terms of handling uncertainties and crisis management. So I will let the panel introduce themselves when they take up the questions. But let me start with Sitanshu. What role, what are the primary responsibilities and challenges which a CFO faces to handle the uncertainties or,
So, hi, I'm Sitanshu Satapathy, actually currently working as CFO of NITCO. Earlier I was finance head for Imagika World for 10 years. And I've gone through a lot of phases where there are crises. So the first started with an accident and how to manage that accident to retain the customer's confidence in the product. Similarly, like Maggie had for levers at one time. So the finance side or a CFO's role become very effective. Like he has to be a guardian of the company. And typically a lot of challenges comes from the supply side, from the communication angle. Typically you have to properly communicate to the stakeholders and the board what exactly it is happening and where we stand. Normally what happens, we have to play the devil advocate at many times, which is not liked by many. But being a guardian as a CFO, I think the first thing is to say no to things. So we have to learn to say no. That's the first things which come as a challenge. Second is to create confidence through communication. My most challenges which I had faced in my career in these two companies is the suppliers. Typically when the crisis happened, the first thing is the supplier looks at us and we have to have a story to tell. So that time you have to take a hat of a storyteller, basically, to give them a confidence in the company, to deal with us, how to continue the supplies, because they are the first to react. And that is the biggest challenge we face when we are in a crisis. Third is from the employee side, because the company doesn't communicate many things from the senior team down onwards. There are a lot of restriction in communication which might affect the confidence of the employee. To how to boost, everyone drops into the CFO, try to get into the CFO because he's the guardian of the finance and the future of the company, along with the CEO. So most of the times we have to be balancing act. We have to do a lot of balancing act in that phase to contain. Finally, I think we need to have a very contingent planning for us, for all contingencies which will happen, because we can't work on a best case basis. So there would be always a worst case scenario, and we have to be prepared to have a contingent plan along with us in terms of cash reserves or whatever, which is not on the panel of anyone, and where we can sail through in this difficult time. So these are 4 or 5 areas which I think are very important as a CFO in a stage of distress or recessions or whatever.
Yeah. I think completely agree. So how to say no is, and the storyline has to be perfect. People have to believe in your story.
Yeah, there will be a lot of promoter pressure.
Absolutely.
But we as professionals have to handle that, and we have to guide the entire team and the stakeholder in the right directions.
Correct. And Giri also mentioned, right, the balancing act.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to, when you're in a promoter-driven organization, I think you have to play that balancing act.
Yeah, Mr. Girdhar spoke about it. Yeah.
Okay, let me move to Kishore. And you come from DBS, which is, we know, an industry which can have the cycles, a lot of cycles, ups and downs. So throw some light on what kind of crisis management strategies you have, or some crisis management strategies which you have implemented in uncertain situations.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. I think it's a long day, and I know that we have a limited quorum, and it's a bit hectic day. So maybe let's make a little bit interactive. Anyone knows about DBS? What we do? Here everybody knows. Anyone knows in these delegates? Actually, we are in which category? Yeah, please. Yeah, absolutely. So we are a diamond mining company. We have almost 1/3 global market share. So we are the largest diamond mining company in the globe. And we are in the diamond category for more than 135 years. Okay. So now again, we have a limitation because 40%, there are anti-competition rules wherein we can't cross 40%. And we have around 35% market share almost for last 2 decades. So we can't grow in a diamond mining. So that was a limitation. Now then there was we do a finance knowledge series every month, and the topic was, I think, let's try and debate and think that actually do we have any other business idea. And one of our finance colleagues said that we are into mining, let's try and do a diamond retail organization. So it's completely different thinking, even though it's ancillary, but we have no idea even about retail, right? So because we are a hardcore mining company. Then we had some interactions with our commercial teams. Thereafter, actually, they also had one because we are a $6 billion organization, it's all revenue from diamond mining. They said that I can't sacrifice anything to the diamond mining business, because when we will enter into that business, we will compete with some of our customers, and hence they were reluctant. So let's try and understand very quickly the diamond business landscape, okay? So we are a mining company. The mining business, more or less globally, is $18 billion, out of which we have 1/3, which is $6 billion. Thereafter, the value addition happens in cutting and polishing. We sell to our customers, we call them site holders. They add 6 billion. So 18 will become 24, the industry size after cutting and polishing. And diamond retail is 84. So from 24 till 84, there is a huge $60 billion value addition happens during diamond jewelry retail. Now, we were keen actually to have diamond jewelry retail. And when we had interactions with our commercial team, they were not keen because we may compromise our diamond rub business. So then 2 people from finance and 3 people from commercial, we had a couple of meetings with our site holders. And then we realized that site holders has very peculiar problems because they sell it to the SMEs, the smaller people, manufacturers, with 180 days credit, longer credit. And their problem is collection, provision, making provision for bad debt. So they have very different problems. So site holders were extremely happy, provided if we buy polished diamonds from them, because any money with De Beers is like an FD. So they were extremely happy. At the back end, when we had interactions, we were not keen to do cutting and polishing because it's a labor-intensive work. Lakhs of labors required, which any MNC will not enter into that foray, and the margins are limited. So I think it was a win-win for both of them. We said that, okay, let's actually buy polished diamonds from our site holders. So I think they both were in alignment. We have another one, Forever Mark. Anyone knows Forever Mark? Yeah, please.
You know, Forever 21, I don't know.
So Forever 21 is another brand, is apparel brand, but we have a Forever Mark. Yeah, please. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So, in a diamond, we used to do, see, diamond is an aspiration. So what we used to do is we used to invest huge money in marketing to create an aspiration, to understand the diamond and the relationship, bond, everything, right? So what we have done is initially we used to do a generic marketing so that diamond as an industry, we will grow and we will get a benefit on a rub because we were almost 1/3 market size. Later on in last 10 years, we created a Forever Mark is a brand. And we are saying that out of those diamonds, if certain diamonds are qualified for certain quality standards, then that diamond will go to our lab. We will do inscription, which is on a table, we will inscribe that. And then those diamonds will go in a market. So if anyone would like to check, when they will check the inscription, means one is this is a natural diamond and it has above certain qualities. So we are investing in Forever Mark in inscribed diamonds. Now, the other challenge was, now we would like to go to retail. However, our current business model is, because since we are interested in more diamond sales, so what we used to do, our retailers, so we are like a bhajji. So we, as a marriage makers, right? So site holders used to sell, the jeweler partners used to buy from site holders. We have a designer center in Milan, so we used to create designs, give it to them because we want industry to grow. And they used to buy and they used to sell. So both used to make money. Site holder used to make money and jeweler partner used to make money by retailing those diamond jewelry. We were only getting like a small dakshina, like just a licensing fees from this business. That was very, very small income in early days. Now, when we would like to enter into the retail, we are going to compete with our retail partners. And hence, again, there was a challenge that we have no idea about this business, but we will compete with them. So what we have done is we had couple of interactions with them, and 4 of our partners were ready that they said that we will take your franchisee, and then we started. So we started 4 stores in 4 different regions in India. We bought, what we have done, we have bought diamonds from our site holders through our Milan center design. We get it manufactured. We sold those jewelry through our channel partners, which are the franchisee. And then during last 18 months, we had huge learnings because there were n number of issues because the franchisee was not making money, gross margin was not right, finishing was not there, the financing was issue. So we actually fine-tune everything over the last 18 months. And at this point in time, we are going to open a couple of stores in this Q4, and there will be huge expansion plan over the next 3 years because now going forward, we would like to, even if you get 2-3% out of that $60 billion pipeline, it will be the huge value addition. So now, henceforth, we will be like an Apple, Nike, or Puma, the way they have their own stores or franchisee stores. Similarly, we will sell everything through our own stores or franchisee stores, and we will into a buy and sell. So because that 18 months of learning has really helped.
So again, concluding, I think out of the box thinking, working very, very closely with commercial team and little bit of exploit and explore. So we are still exploiting our current business, the matured business. We try and extract maximum revenue and bottom line from our matured business. Put little bit for the exploring activity, which are innovation, trying something new, and that has really resulted. And that's where I think that's the way to go. Thank you.
Thanks, Kishore. I think very inspiring story. And Sitanshu said, so story, telling the right story is important. I came down so that, audience can interact and mingle. But interesting story. And I would replace the word exploit with cross-selling, upselling. Maybe that's what you're trying to go from back office to a front office business, which is more profitable and sustainable. So I think great story and great conversation. We know technology is so important these days, whether it is to grow sustainable growth or crisis management, and it is important in crisis management as well. So I remember in Capgemini when COVID struck, and that was one of the biggest uncertainties in recent times. So we are around 200,000 people in India, so we didn't know where our people were. We did not know how to comply with SEZ policies, because people have to be in specific SEZ zone and so on. HR was worried about, whereabouts of the people. Our revenue is based on timesheets, so people may not carry their laptops. They were at their hometown and no access with VPN and so on. So a lot of uncertainties in terms of HR, CFO, so on and so forth. We decided we use technology to go on mobile. Everything was, this was 3-4 years back. Self-service was a norm, but we said everything has to be on mobile. So timesheets, expenses, approvals, and today I think we resolved that uncertainty by using technology to a large extent. Even for knowing people where they are, we created a chatbot who would ping the employee on Microsoft Teams and ask what about it. And we also solved the SEZ problem by knowing the whereabouts of the employee. So technology came to the rescue to manage that uncertainty. And I'm sure, let me go to Upma, and she comes from a large conglomerate, Piramal. So how, maybe you can share some example of how did you use technology in your organization or in your experience to manage some crisis or uncertainty?
Thank you. Before I talk about the crisis and the technology during the crisis, one thing very important is it's not the crisis when you need to look forward for the technology. Yes, COVID, there has been a lot of learning. We never thought of we can work anywhere, from anywhere we can do it, and it just became like a basic norm, and we didn't even realize it. From offices we switched to our home or at any location, and we were able to manage that business. So that's something, one of the big learning when the technology adoption is coming is how really we are prepared for the technology. So even today, when we talk about what are the examples, gone are the days when the CFOs typically talk about that there is a month end, there is a quarter closing ends, that's, we have to now finalize these numbers. We have moved a step ahead. It means like you are now a strategic partner with the business heads. You need to make sure that the entire organization look into the numbers the way you are looking into the numbers. So there is no reconciliation which is going to happen. That means the adoption of the technology at the initial stages is very, very important. And that's something which will make you ready for the crisis. In my erstwhile job, when I was a bank, and you are into the fiduciary position. That means you're taking care of the funds of the investors. What are the important things, like when your business is, there are risks associated with the business. One is your climate risk. You are lending. But because of sometimes there are floods, there are droughts, something happens onto the climate and that you are directly impacted, which in a way it's your non-performing assets are increasing. How do you ensure that during the crisis, when the decision of shutting it down or enhancing exposure in another state, how do you take it? You need to have the technology as your backbone. So it's not that time we need to think through it, hey, this is the time to adopt the technology. No. The idea is, if we are following the technology as our base of having a decision making, our boardroom discussions, our internal executive discussions, we know what exactly is happening, and if we will shut down, what would be the repercussions onto the ROA and ROE. So typically, everybody would like to know what is your risk-adjusted returns. But the moment you have those scenarios already built into the dashboard, and I can assure you that the power of those dashboard is so, it's been so good that people are able to take the decision because they can see the output themselves. They're not dependent on to the finance team just to say what happens, how the numbers looks like. Especially during the COVID time when the regulators were making sure that there is no liquidity crisis. And I can tell you, even during the COVID times, we were supposed to, our branches were open, our head office was open. We need to give sharp at 9 o'clock to the regulator, where do we stand on to the liquidity. We need to maintain our LCR, CRR, SLR, how is our NDTL is moving. We need to ensure that the funds are not being short. If any customers comes to the branch, there should be sufficient money onto the ATM. But how it is possible, it is just through the technology. We were using the technology, and by 9 o'clock that data used to go. And that's something I always say is, it's how do we embrace the technology in our day-to-day activities that help us to, have the crisis part also being very, very smooth when the crisis comes. So for me, technology is something, it's a need of the hour, and everybody, I think most of us are already using it, but the more we use technology and we'll make the processes process-driven rather than person-dependent, we will see the real strategic value, what is expected from all of us. It comes out, and we are able to take the right decision during the crisis and also in the normal course of business. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Upma. I think if I have to take cue from you, just-in-time technology is very important. I think the example you gave about ATM and availability of funds on time or risk-adjusted returns, I think. Maybe I would like to ask audience, if you have used technology during any of your uncertainties in your business or crisis management, any examples to share with us? I'm sure everybody faced the COVID challenge, and they must have resolved using technology or yeah, anything you would like to share? No? I thought I'll come down and make it interactive, but looks like I should go back. Okay, so we move to our next panelist. Yeah. Okay, sorry. Sorry, I'll get the mic here.
During COVID period, we were in the retail business earlier, prior to this organization. So we never been to the e-commerce business. We used to always sell in only the retail only. So we never thought of e-commerce. When the COVID came into place and all the retail store was shut down, only they were allowed for e-commerce. So we have taken, we built up within 10-15 days for our e-commerce portal, which started generating the revenue for the organization, which is helped for the important. Otherwise, we never, that one employee's whatever fixed expenses started coming in, building up, we were not able to make a payment for the employees. Then the organization thought that e-commerce is without e-commerce we cannot able to do it. So e-commerce built up the day one, then 2 years it was giving a good revenue to take care of it. So that could be the reason we got into that.
Oh, fantastic. May I request you to introduce yourself and what
I'm Vairam Thangavelu, right now from cold storage warehouse business, Brattle Foods Private Limited. Earlier I was in a part of Future Group.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah. That's very interesting. A lot of retail companies must have faced this challenge. And they must have shifted online or some other way. Okay, I think interesting. Anybody else has anything to share? Yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah, so I think in COVID times, what saved all of us is, I think, tech only. Considering as a CFO, your ERP solutions, or a basic example like Zoom, everyone was on Zoom or Google Meet. So most of our times we were on that and, doing our work. So, tech really helped us, come really not come out, but we came out in a way.
Yeah,
So
I think-
it was due to tech only. I think we got along. We continued our struggle, challenges, the fight, everything. Everyone has.
I remember a lot of people started using Zoom, even our parents who never used technology, they started using Zoom and started interacting. So yeah, I mean, great example. Thank you for sharing. Maybe we move to our next panelist, Srinivasan. You come from industry of transport solutions. So my question is, as a CFO, we handle forecasts, scenario planning. So give us some examples of during crisis or uncertainties, how do you take care of financial forecast, or what strategies you will adopt to bring change in scenario planning and so on. Yeah.
Thank you, Sachin. Good afternoon to all of you. I'm Srinivasan, CFO at Hyva, and have been in manufacturing industry for more than 20 years now. So crisis is a term, sometimes companies go through crisis many times, but don't like to admit we face short and medium-term crisis. But it can be different, it can be for a company, it's different. It may be within the industry, it may be for a geography where we operate, or it can be as large as the pandemic that we faced, and also the Red Sea crisis or the banking crisis which is going on. So whatever may be the specificity or the broadness of the crisis, I feel that CFOs have a crucial role in navigating the organization throughout this journey and helping the management achieve the targets. So when we think of these things, the great support we can take from our skills on financial forecast, risk assessments, and scenario planning. I think we would have all done during our journey, various models in terms of the forecast, strategy planning. One question I will tell you is, as a CFO, you need to understand the business. We do have all the details. We are at the best advantage as a finance person to know the numbers and the story behind those numbers. So if you are well prepared in terms of the forecast, for example, when COVID hit most of the organizations which were having a regular practice of forecasting, scenario planning, sensitivity analysis, could survive faster, could respond faster. For example, I would quote in my own experience, the biggest challenge was liquidity management at that point of time. And that traditionally all organizations, we look at working capital and, various parameters. We are behind the numbers. We achieve so much inventory days, we achieve so much receivables and payables, etc. But ultimately, how agile you are in terms of, getting that to the lowest situation or, better situation based on the crisis that you are going through. So how, you can move to for example, the vendor payable days. What is your elasticity in terms of moving it from, say, 40, 45 days to, say, 150 days? And that's where, people who were able to do it, I think they managed the liquidity very well. We had a lot of scenario planning that was taking place every time we used to prepare budgets, and there was sensitivity analysis. See, as a CFO, you need to know when the organization can scale up or scale down, and what is the kind of resource requirement based on your structure, fixed structure that you have. So basically, everyone during that period, we started looking at what is the minimum resource that we need to retain to run our operations and then manage. So this flexibility comes in only when you have very, very good clarity on where you want to go. As an organization, we know that we are bound by the limitations of, the goals of the organization, the amount of resources we have. But then within that, there are various phases. You move from one stage to another, and then you reach a certain level. So I would say that, as Sachin said, and as many of us said in the panel, we need to be really, really aware of what we are heading to. Any kind of crisis, we must be prepared. As a CFOs, we have the best information and also the knowledge to execute during this period. So I think ultimately I would say one famous quote I will share. Everyone has a will to win, but very few have the will to prepare to win. By Vinci Lombardi, I think it was something that everyone needs to adopt, and we should be able to scale through any kind of crisis with this kind of preparation. Thank you.
Yeah, very well said. I think will to prepare the will, and it is all about mindset, right? I mean, the CFO needs to have the right mindset to adapt to the situation. And I'm sure a lot of CFOs moved from a quarterly or a half-yearly forecast cycle to a monthly forecast cycle because of the uncertainties, and when required, they again moved back to the earlier cycle. So, yeah, great insight. So, let me ask a question to all of you. How many of you think that data is the most important thing today, especially for the CFO organization? Maybe raise your hands, whoever feels. Okay, I see some of you are not raising the hand, so you feel data I feel the data is the most important thing for a CFO organization. And having a data analytics organization within a CFO function is very important to support business decision making. So I remember, again, taking the COVID example. So we had the Lehman Brothers crisis in 2008, right? So within my function, we had a data analytics in finance. And we tried to correlate, when COVID started, we tried to correlate the data of 2008 on a few things like how much time it took for customers to pay us back, how much cash discount we had to give to customers to recover money. So we saw data of 2008, though it was not the same situation, but similar situation for software industry. It was a big crisis for financial services industry, and we started correlating. Did we honor our offers in the market for freshers? And what happened to people on bench? Were we able to deploy? How much time it took to deploy on billable projects and so on? What was the customer behavior in terms of repaying our invoices? How much time it took for a proposal to move to a sales stage and so on? That really helped to pacify the business, that kind of data. Though it was not similar situation, but the data helped business to take decisions. They were quite pacified, okay, it's not, we can manage this situation. So that is really the importance of data. And with that, let me go to Jay, who comes from a financial services industry, and I'm sure you handle a lot of data. And if you can throw some light on how you have used data or data analytics in the past during crisis or uncertainty as a CFO.
Thanks, Sachin. So let me take you through on a journey. I'll take a minute more. So you mentioned about Lehman, and that struck a different chord. So I've been very fortunate that I've had 4 crises to go through before this, right? And the first one was 2003. I don't know how many of you know about Ketan Parekh, right? Happened to look through, trades when he was doing, and on the other side. That was first. I happened to be at the thick of, 2007 crisis in the banking industry in the UK. I don't know how many of you are aware, 2006, HSBC published its financials where it took a very large hit on subprime mortgage. Everybody thought it was a one-off before the 2007 crisis hit. 2013, FX crisis hit when I was a banking CFO. And then came 2018, when, ILFS hit. And then came COVID. So first thing, I thanked my stars that, it wasn't the first time. I can tell you, the first time when it hits, you're shaky. Second, third time, you try and learn from it. By the fourth and fifth time, you actually think you're going to stand, because the most important thing, keeping data aside, is you standing there with your team, at least guiding them what to do. I don't know how many of you are aware of what HDB does, just a quick snapshot. We, at the moment, happen to be the largest retail NBFC in the country. We're 90,000 crores. Most of our loans are 1 lakh. So you can multiply how many number of loans that are, right? What that meant was we have 1,600 branches. When COVID hit us, think about a country where you can't go out, and every single customer of yours, it was mentioned in the cold storage space, right, is only retail, which meant entire work shut down. We have 60,000 employees who work in our retail space. Not a single person being able to get out for the first month, for the first 2 months. What do? You're collecting on an average 4,000 crores a month. So you can multiply and check how much that means if you don't collect for 3 months, right? If you don't collect 12,000 crores, that's a little bit more than most people's net worth would be out here, so you can't really absorb it, right? What that meant was you had to sit down and you had to strategize, COVID 1, COVID 2, what exactly are you going to do? Data absolutely is there with you because IT systems worked, fortunately, right? Data mining, everybody's done, everybody has it. Can you as a single CFO or a management team do everything? Probably not, because you've got to reach out to your 50, 60,000 people on the ground. What do? So you had to strategize in a very quick span of time as to what do you start, what do you stop, what do you continue. We all believed, right, that at some point in time, whether it is 2 months, 3 months, we'd get back to normalcy. Phase 1, we were more uncertain, and phase 2, we were hopefully more certain than we were, whereas it hit us harder, that we'll get back quickly. I'll give you another narrative and laugh it out with me if you wish to. I had a foreign delegation from Europe come down in February 2020. That time, China had started to get hit with COVID. So they asked us, what do you think? We were sitting over lunch and said, what do you think about COVID? And he said, udhar hota hai. We are absolutely fine. Right? India mein kuch nahi hota hai. Least did we know end of March, we'd all be sitting at home. Right? I mean, it just struck and we are closing financials. None of us, I don't know how many of you have done, but none of us ever thought you could close financials sitting at home. Audit happening at home, right? Board meetings happening all on Zoom. You know, directors telling them how to log into Zoom. I mean, different world altogether. So again, coming back to data, all of that had to be pulled together. The entire analytics that we put together, where it really helped us, a specific example was making sure all the data came in. The data went out to people not in form of Excel spreadsheets. Because the moment you throw Excel, everybody's used to their sales team getting various reports. The sales team uses it in the way they like. Because it is crisis, everybody says, this is what best I could do. Serves to their management a certain piece of information that they like. That then soaks up into a certain manner saying, this is the best we could do, the month is gone, the quarter is gone. The most important thing was pulling it all together centrally, putting it out in a form that was used the same way by the CEO, the CFO, and the last sales officer on the ground. Today, if you ask me, I don't get a single Excel report. Every single thing that we developed over those 5-6 months, we had reports, but we pulled it in a tool which made sure every single branch across our network saw the same information. If you ask me, what did I sell in Darbhanga yesterday? How many units, how many loans, how many two-wheelers did I finance? I can tell you in 30 seconds, the unit, the value, the ROE, the yield, and the value of the loan, right? And whether it was through a DSA or through my own employee. And what is his manager? Has his manager done enough, business this month, this week, etc. And what did he do the same thing last week? So that power made sure people were aware the same information was being looked at. Then passing on the message, do you focus on just growing business, sustaining business, collecting? Centrally passing on those messages was the most important thing that the analytic engine had to run, because as the challenge came through between April 21 to June 21, when the country shut down, June it started, but April and May, idea was, where do you collect? Which business do you focus on, right? Today, if you had a commercial vehicle business where the vehicle was not plying, do you run after that guy? Or do you run after, somebody who's a salaried guy whom salary is coming and just is going to choose where does he pay first? So that entire piece around the credit side, working with the risk team, was critical to say, let's focus our engines here. Within 6 months, as a top tier NBFC and a bank subsidiary, the regulator was looking at us saying, we're going to challenge you. You have to tell us what to do. And that became central for HDFC Bank to say, your subsidiary has a problem. I don't know, obviously our own problem, but newsflash came out, HDB had a, higher restructuring pool. Suddenly HDFC Bank, for whom we are 2%, gets mired with the fact that, oh my God, your subsidiary has a problem. We have to get out of it quickly. And make sure within 2 quarters, we are back to the same zone. Shareholders, stakeholders, look at you and say, oh, great, you do so many things. Most important is, do you make the ROA? Do you make the ROE? Are you a good company? And move on. Like Giri was saying, everybody has a choice to invest. Where do you invest? Whom do you work with? Few factors are what every stakeholder will consider, and then they'll move on. So data and data analytics for us has been core, and I'll summarize it in the form that it has been core to the fact that use it really well. Don't make it the CFO's pride, make it the organization's pride. Don't make it the power of one, make it the power of many. If you put your data analytic engine into the hands of all your employees, make it so transparent that the guy on the field knows that what he is seeing is the same thing his CFO sees. His CFO cannot come into a review and challenge it with some new data. He feels good, right? And that has really moved us way forward into the piece. Thank you.
I really picked up 2 things. What you said is you build a persona of people whom would you take a bet on during the crisis or the uncertainty, whether salaried guy or so that was very important to do based on data. And then empowering people based on data is another important key takeaway for me. So let me ask you guys, if you have used data in similar to technology, if you have used data analytics during any crisis in your business or any uncertainties which you have faced, how did you use the data to come over it? Any examples which you want to share? Yeah, go ahead. Maybe just introduce yourself. And, yeah.
Hi everyone, good afternoon. My name is Himanshu Vasan. I am from Tata Starbucks. So when you talk about data, I think we use that day in, day out, like how you rightly mentioned there. What we believe is that the dashboarding or the sort of reports that we are talking about, they have to be uniform across. And that is something which we learned even in the previous company wherein I was working for an FMCG. During pandemic, everyone was aware that, okay, the sales are not happening. What do we need to do differently? How do we ensure everyone understands the data in a certain way? So the KPIs were set in such a way that, okay, let's just divide the data into cohorts. Which are the cohorts and what sort of transactions are happening in that specific segment? What can we do differently? So that is one way of looking at it. And even today, right? With the amount of competition across QSRs and different things happening, you do the same thing. How do you ensure that what is the catchment, what sort of income group is sitting in, how do you ensure that the right amount of bifurcations are done? So it's pretty well laid out so that everyone from the store till the headquarters, everyone understands, okay, these are the KPIs and how you judge them. So I think it plays a pivotal role always, even if there is a crisis or not, and it plays a significant role in how you make a decision.
Absolutely. Love the way you put it. I mean, the cohorting the data, categorizing and making it relevant to the relevant stakeholders. So let me move to Om Prakash. So I think we discussed a lot about various things, but I think talent is to the core of the business and also to the CFO function. I think maybe a question for you and maybe we can talk to audience as well, but how do you groom talent within our function to handle uncertainties or handle crisis management? I'm sure there's no specific course, but maybe you can share some experience on how you have done it.
Thank you. I'm Om Prakash. I work for a company called RAK Ceramics. They are into tiles and sanitaryware and faucets.
You have to take closer, yeah.
Tiles, sanitaryware and faucets. This is one of the topics which I like the most, to speak about the talent and how to motivate the team. And believe me, this is not about uncertainty or this is a time agnostic, because I personally believe that the team building and the team in any company, any organization, they are the most crucial people. They are the people who can make or break any company or any situation. So it is the most invaluable, which we all know. And this is something, and this the team building and motivation, and this comes from the culture, and also particularly in our company, we are more focused on agility as far as the team building is concerned. Whole of the agility is our core center of all our core values, and we focus a lot to in every aspect of the team building exercise, whether it is recruitment, whether it is retaining, whether in all the processes which they run on day-to-day basis. We don't keep our processes very hard code. We keep it very agile. So we don't have a fixed, many times we don't have a fixed checklist and processes, which is, though we have for the operational purpose, then it is also built very flexible around the system. So anyone can approach if they have a different view to discuss, and this is also to discuss, and to if they have any idea, they can discuss with us. We can change it. We can adapt new things. So we focus on adaptability, so that the team is agile, and we also focus on the cross departments team working, so that the idea of one department is shared with other department. And see that, in our company, the trust and fairness, this is the key for any motivation of employees. Once one employee feels that he is fairly dealt, he's trusted, and people trust on him, he has a trust on his senior has a trust on him, then he feels motivated and engaged, and this works in long-term favor of the company. So this is what, thank you, the organizer, for inviting me, and thank you all of you. Thank you the team that listening here with all the patience. Thank you.
Thank you, Om Prakash. I think mobility is one of the most important thing, which shifting from one department to other. So I think that is a key which an employee gets exposed to different businesses, and I think we cannot live without collaboration today, I think, as in silo. So maybe I'll go to Shirish, who has been patiently waiting as our last panelist. So maybe we come towards the end of the panel, and so maybe throw some light on what are the lessons learned as a CFO, maybe how we have handled crisis or uncertainties, some of the lessons learned from your experience as a CFO, if you can throw some light on those.
Thanks, Sachin. See, I think, let me first...
Sorry, Shirish, if you want to introduce yourself.
Let me first get into the crisis part. Crisis is one of two factors. One is external and internal. Now, external, as we have already experienced COVID, in terms of external factors, these are out of organization's control. Now, and certain internal factors are where you have fixed operational losses. The company has been undergoing continuous year after year losses in terms of operational losses or EBITDA losses or PBT at PBT level. So it is very important that in each of these crises, if it is externally driven, the communication what you make to the stakeholders, whether it is employees, whether it is bankers, whether it is board of directors or shareholders, anybody. So each category of people, the communication is very important in crisis. And if it is employees, make sure the employees are connected with you and being made as a part of the problem. The easiest way to solve a problem is to make people part of the problem. And if you make a communication which is relevant to them and they can feel connected to you, I think that is most important in terms of crisis. For example, in terms of COVID, it was very important to keep your employees connected, employees engaged with you, either by sharing information or keeping them engaged through town halls, or whether the town halls were held on Zoom or Google Meet or anywhere else. So I think the biggest lessons which I have learned is, the crisis and the uncertainties will keep coming up and down, and all organizations will keep undergoing through crisis. It is very important to keep communicating the nuances of why the crisis have happened, what is the efforts what you are taking to mitigate those crises, and at the end the organization will come out successfully of this crisis. I think that is the most important part in a crisis, what is required to handled very well to ensure that the crisis is is run through properly.
Oh, thank you, Shirish. I think communication is the key, how you communicate to your employees, customers, suppliers, stakeholders. So, very important. And thank you for those insights. I think that's all. I think the time is up, so we come towards the end of the panel discussion. But just last 1 minute, if you have any questions for the panel, if anybody would like to have any questions or discuss something around the topic, happy to do that, yeah. Okay, I guess it's a no, so we can thank you everyone for the participation. Yeah.
Kindly stay back on the stage. And now I would request Ms. Hemlata Saptarshi, Head Enterprise Sale at Iris GST, to kindly join us on the stage and begin the felicitation with the moderator and the following panelists.